This is Eyal from Daath, and you are listening to The Dan Chan Show.
Hey Eyal, how are you, man?
Really, really good, man. How are you?
Very, very well. Thanks for asking. So first off, also it must be very early morning there in Milwaukee. What time is it now?
8:30 a.m., so I wouldn't call it early.
No,
But,
no.
early for metal, I think.
Early, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So you're here primarily to discuss the new Daath album, The Deceivers, which is released on May the 3rd. Firstly, and it's a question on everyone's lips. What's happened in the last 13 years between albums? Please fill us in on that little time gap.
So during the last 13 years where we took a hiatus, for me, I thought the band was over. I tried to restart it a few times and got nowhere with that. And at some point, it was just like, all right, this is not happening. I need to move on with my life. So I kept on producing bands. I ended up working at a studio called Audio Hammer. That they worked with like really really great metal bands, like really well known bands like Black Dahlia or August Burns
Hmm.
Red or Trivium, all kinds of bands. So I got to work on albums for those bands at the studio.
Yeah.
That lasted for a few years. Then I went ahead and started a couple of companies. One's called Unstoppable Recording Machine. We're well known for something we do called Nail the Mix. That's like our most popular offering. And Nail the Mix, it basically shows people how to mix metal, but we work with the best producers and the best bands in metal. So if you want to learn how to mix Meshuggah, it'll be actual Meshuggah tracks with the dude who mixed them. So we've been
Cool.
doing that going on. Next year will be 10 years.
Wow.
And I also started a guitar site called Riffheart for metal guitar players. So basically, been pretty busy the whole time. And I'm not the kind of person who likes to do too many things at the same time. You can only focus on a limited number of things with the amount of time we have on Earth, unfortunately. So, I kept on feeling like the band was cursed. And so I just kept on doing these other things, but it always bugged me. I never got over it. I kept trying to move on, but literally every single day I'd be thinking about it. And then we kept on getting hit up by fans literally every single day wanting more.
Hmm.
So that also allowed it to stay alive, I guess, in my head. Because if
Sure.
nobody cared, uh,
Mm.
it would have been a lot easier to drop it. But the fact was that I cared and other people cared. So it stayed alive in my head for quite a while until, the time was right to bring it back.
And did it feel like when you were mixing and obviously working in the studio, did we get like jealous moments of like envy moments of these bands putting these things together? You're like, I want to get back to doing that.
No, not really.
Really? Okay.
Because no, because I didn't just start producing. I started at that point. That
Mhm.
was 2010
Yeah,
to 2014, but I had started producing over 10 years before that. So
I see.
to me, that was like a parallel career.
I see.
Even though I was never hugely passionate about production, I really only did it to be able to work on my own music
Yeah.
and to create opportunities for my own music.
Hmm.
I still saw that as an accomplishment because I had been working in that field for over a
Of course.
decade.
Yeah.
So to me, that seemed like, okay, well, the band didn't work out, but this is working out.
Sure. Sure.
So no, no jealousy. It was awesome to be able to work
Sure.
on projects that size.
So obviously there's been a few admin changes, shall we say, in the band. Can we talk through that?
Yes, let's talk through that. Do you have any questions, or do you just want me to
Well, I don't know.
say who's
You've
new?
had obviously the 13 years, saw some people leave, so you've replaced, etc., etc. How easy was that for you? Was it easy replacements or?
Well, originally, the reason that the hiatus lasted as long as it did was because I felt like I couldn't do it without the other guys,
Right.
without the previous lineup. So when I kept on trying to restart things and wasn't able to, I just thought, well, if I can't get them to do it, let's just not do it because there's no way that it'll ever be as good with another group of people. And
Yeah.
maybe at the time that was true, because one thing that's changed between now and 10 or 15 years ago is that the overall level of musicianship has just gone up.
Yeah.
There were great musicians back then, but they were way further and fewer between, and now it's way more common.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just that there are more of them on the internet and they know
Hmm.
how to
More
present
available.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know how to record themselves and they'll
Mm.
put themselves out there. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's
Yeah.
not that there's more, but either way, they're easier to find.
And
And
obviously a great
so,
drummer as well. What a great drummer you've got in the band now.
well, yeah, that's okay. So, uh, on about the actual individual guys. So I came to a point where I realized I have to do this regardless of the old lineup,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to do this, and with me or not, I'm doing this,
Yeah.
and not with me, I'm getting new guys.
Yeah.
And the thing that I told myself was the new guys, they have to be the perfect fit. So they have to be great players, great writers, and understand the vision. And they also have to have something else going on so
Yeah.
that they don't rely on this for their primary source of income, so that they don't put weird pressure on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
So drummer is a dude named Krim.
Grim. Yeah.
His primary band is sick orchestral metal band called Septic Flesh.
Yeah.
He's also got a really big YouTube channel, and there's this idea of YouTubers not being good musicians, but I think he's kind of the example of some YouTubers being some of the best musicians on earth.
Yeah.
He's, in my opinion, Sean, our vocalist, and I were just talking about this last night. We think he's one of the best to ever do it in the genre on earth, period, in the
Right.
history of metal. One of the greatest drummers ever. And he's kind of just like the perfect combination of power, speed, creativity, feel, and he just looks great playing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that, but he's the drummer. A guy named Rafael Trujillo is the new lead guitar player. He was in a band called Obscura, which
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
super sick,
Yeah.
technical death metal band. Now in another band called Obsidious. Krim showed him to me, actually. Krim's from Austria and Rafael's from Austria.
Hmm.
Despite the name Rafael Trujillo, he's
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Austria. Um, and when he showed him to me, it was just like, this is the dude we need in the band. Because he's got this style of playing that's very, very classical influenced, kind of like me, but he's just like an Olympic athlete,
Yeah.
basically, and a really, really good writer. So, we started, to trying to gradually work with him, all the way back to the first song that we wrote, upon the return. Bassist is a dude named David Marvuglio, who is also a monster. And then the orchestrator, synth guy, and third guitar player is a guy named Jesse Zaretti, who's known for working for like Riot Games or
That's it.
Marvel or
Yeah.
doing stuff for Netflix. Like he's legit, super legit. So and
Yeah.
of course Sean is back,
Of course.
the same vocalist. So
Yeah.
quite the lineup.
Awesome. So, you said the band is more orchestrated and more over the top. What did you mean by this? And explain the writing and recording process of this new album.
So the band's always been over the top, and we have had orchestration since the beginning. Like we've always used synth and orchestra and
Yeah.
other elements, but I always felt like in the past we were limited by budget or by technology or by the skills of people around us. And I knew that this time we weren't. And so I wanted to go all out in every direction that I felt was, appropriate to the sound. And so I wanted to take everything I love about Daath and just basically turn it up to 11. Like make the album I've always wanted to make because who knows? I was just kind of feeling who would know, who knows if we're going to get to do it again. Like it's kind of a miracle that this is even happening. So let's just go
Yeah.
all out in every single direction. So
Awesome.
it's basically every single thing that I consider part of our sound done to the limit. And the writing process, that was actually kind of very similar to how I always write, which is part of why I worked with these new guys is they were able to work with me the way that I work. So it's basically me doing my own thing. Um, like always, like I said, like I've always written songs or always written music and then just starting to collaborate little by little with them.
Mm.
The thing is, these guys are they're such like sophisticated and creative dudes
Hmm.
that, like when you give them an idea and then they start doing their thing with it, it's going to get better or they're going to make it very clear that we shouldn't go down this path.
Yeah.
And the thing is, whereas maybe in some cases in the past I wouldn't respect people's opinions, I respect their opinions completely. So if Krim says we've been on this direction in this song for too long, we need to do something like this to make it breathe or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to him because I trust him. And
Yeah.
same if Jesse says, "Okay, this song is good, but like you need more connective tissue between the riffs." Like I'm not going to be like, "Well, you don't know what you're talking about."
Right.
I'm going to listen. So the feedback loop was really, really good. And then also their ideas are just stellar. So lots, let's just say like lots of song starts and lots of demos going back and forth for a period of 2 years.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it just came down to the way that I always do things, which is just kind of shut myself off from the world and just start writing and then
Yeah.
try to not ruin the rest of my life in the process.
So what themes are behind the album? Because I believe that even after this long hiatus, there's a common theme still running through the new music.
Yeah, we hate the world. I mean, in a non-adolescent way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the albums have always been about basically the way we see the world, the human side of the world,
Hmm.
and sometimes, and so the part of the world that gets in our way, um, who presents obstacles. That's kind of always been our thing. Is like our exploration of who's in the way and how do you basically bust through that. But then sometimes we've turned that attention on ourselves because sometimes you're the person that's in your own way.
Yeah.
Oftentimes more than other people.
Yeah.
So, you hate ourselves as much as we hate the world. Um, but that's basically what we're looking at. And one of the things that we looked at just because it feels very appropriate. So we're not, let me just start this thought over by saying that we don't have to try very hard to find a theme to write about because it's coming from real life and how we actually feel. And
Sure.
something that we've been feeling a lot lately, and I think a lot of the world feels this way, is that it seems like people get into positions uh, of power or of influence based off of things that have nothing to do with the position that they hold
Yeah.
for other factors. And it leads to really, really strange results. And so I know that some people are going to be listening to this and think that I'm talking about politicians or something. And yes, that's true, but that's like the last thing I'm talking about, actually. I'm
Okay.
talking about it more in terms of like who you encounter day to day and how we deceive ourselves also into thinking that we deserve something or don't deserve something.
Mhm.
It's there's a lot of look at basically practices of deception, both of the self and from the outside world,
I
if that
understand.
makes sense.
I understand. Yeah, yeah. Now, tell me about the guests on the album. How did you decide on these guys, and how did you decide on the tracks that we're going to play on? Can you talk me through that?
So there's really, really amazing guests. I'll go
Absolutely.
down the
Yeah.
list.
I
So
know. It's a great list.
Mark Hol yeah, it's crazy. Mark Holcomb from Periphery played a solo. Mick Gordon did synth and programming on a song. Dean Lamb from Arcspire did a solo on a song. Dan Sugarman from Ice Nine Kills
Hmm.
uh, did a solo. Jeff Loomis, Per Nilsson, Inspire Ducias, and the reason for bringing those dudes in was because, well, two reasons. At the time that I started recruiting the guests, we didn't have a lead guitar player yet.
Hmm.
And I feel like Daath needs great solos.
Hmm.
And so uh, I just felt like, okay, so we don't have a lead guitar player in the band yet. Uh, let's just make it a community thing.
Yeah.
I know
Cool.
lots of great people, and it turns out that a lot of them are Daath fans. So
Mm.
we're friends and they're Daath fans, and they wanted to do it. And then halfway through writing the record, Raphael joined the band. And then there's the other thing that I've always looked up to uh, really prolific musicians who do lots of things with lots of people. Like, for instance, Mike Patton.
Yeah.
Like, whether you love or hate his music, or love some of his music and hate some of his music, or it's impossible to love every single thing he does unless you're a psychopath, because he's done so many things with
Yeah.
so many people, and it's so
Yeah.
varied
Mm.
that that to me is amazing. And it's always with really, really incredible people. And I've always looked at people like that as kind of the example to follow. Is
Yeah.
why limit yourself to just, the four people in your band.
Hmm.
So that's why if you go back to the Hinderers, there are guests on that album as well. And we were in a similar position in the Hinderers, where the lineup wasn't solidified yet when we were writing that album. So we're bringing guests in. It's just something that even with a solid lineup, probably will do again in the future.
Cool. Cool. That's good to know. So I'm not sure it's going to be so easy for you being band members all over the world, etc. But are you planning to take this on the road? Are there going to be some shows to back this album up?
Yes, but nothing concrete yet. We are definitely going to tour, and we'll definitely do festivals, and we're working on that right now.
Hmm.
We have booking for the full entire world. I was going to
Awesome.
say the universe, but we don't have it for the universe. Um, as people probably know, touring is challenging these days because the cost of everything is
Exactly.
way, way, way higher than it used to be. And so that forces bands to have to be a lot more selective about
Hmm.
what they're going to do. It's, like, we can't just jump in a van and
Yeah.
say, here we are.
Yeah.
Uh, but uh, but we're working on it, and there will definitely be tours. Like, absolutely.
So when was the last Darth show? When would that be?
It was in December of 2010 with
Wow.
Fear Factory and High on Fire
Wow. What can we expect from a
in the
Darth?
UK, actually.
Yeah, really, was it? Was that the last show?
Yeah,
Really? Wow.
yeah.
So what can we expect from a show from you guys? What in the future? How do you see it? Is it going to take back all those memories, or are you going forward with a different kind of passion now? You're that many years on?
Um, I don't want it to be like our old shows.
No.
No, it's much like the new lineup is, of the time period we live in now.
Yeah.
I see a live show as being the same thing, and
Right.
so we're going to use whatever technology we can to make, and in addition to just playing the
Sure.
shit out of the songs,
Yeah.
we're going to make it as insane as we possibly can.
Cool.
because the possibilities now are just so much greater than they were before.
Sure.
It's funny, man. Like when people say that things were better before, like I wonder what world they're in
I
or
know what you
were
mean.
in. Or like
Yeah.
were we in the same world? Because I remember what it was like before, and it was not better. It was worse. There, yes, there's more. I think people when they say that they're just mad that the barrier to entry is lower and
Yeah,
they have
yeah,
to
yeah.
compete harder,
That's
and
right.
that this new generation of musicians has YouTube,
Yeah.
and so they're better than we were when we were kids. Like I think that that's what you're hearing because objectively speaking, it's way better now.
Yeah.
And technology is better, and the things that we can do with technology
Yeah.
it's just better.
Of
And
course.
so that goes from home recording to live shows. Like the things that bands do with live shows now, like for instance, synchronized lights. That's
Yeah.
not a big deal.
Yeah.
But like back in when we were touring, we were the only band that out of any of our peer group who had MIDI synchronized lights. Like lots of
Yeah.
them had lighting people who would
Mm.
press buttons, but we were the only band going around where the lights just were controlled by the robot. And now that's way more common. Like
Sure.
that's not like some advanced stuff.
Of
And
course.
there's several aspects of a live show now that are just
Yeah.
how things are done.
Yeah.
So to me, that's exciting because I always felt limited by the technology
Yeah.
back in the
Of
day.
course. Excited to see you on the road then. So give me last question because I know we're short of time. Give me your a yin and yang moment from your career and time in the music industry. High and a low. Start with a low.
Start with the low. Um, I feel like the our self-titled album, uh, the release of that was a low,
Right.
basically.
Why?
With our self-titled, that was when we were making it. We knew we were done.
Right. I see.
Like that lineup had like run its course,
Right.
and
Yeah.
things were super negative. They were
Right.
negative between us, negative with the label, like negative with our booking agents. It was
Yeah.
just, and then it came out, and like
Mm.
barely any copies were shipped to stores.
Mm.
Like no promotion happened for it. It
It
was
was
just like
doomed. It was doomed.
it was, dude. It was cursed. It was
Right.
cursed, and we made some mistakes with our choice for how to get it mixed and
Yeah.
mastered. So,
Yeah.
like, all in all, I feel like that's probably the lowest point.
Fair enough.
The
Okay. Give me
highest
the high
point,
one. Yeah. Let's have it.
man, there's so many.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate with my music career because, like,
Mm.
I'll just give you a few. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
getting signed to Roadrunner in 2006 changed everything.
Mm.
One of the highest points, playing Ozfest in 2007
Awesome.
was like oh, holy shit,
Yeah.
this is actually happening moment. But then
Amazing.
in the years since, like when Riff Hard did a course with Zach Wild, that
Amazing.
was like a wow, here we are. Or URM, we did the summit where hundreds of people came from all over the world to this event that we threw with that's like 4 days long with producers from everywhere coming in to speak, and like we had Arcspire play, and it was that's another holy shit moment. And
Yeah.
then all the way to now, like getting
Getting the
signed again,
deceivers
and
out.
just
Getting
yeah,
deceivers out.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
I got the record in my hand the other day and was like, all right, we did
Yes.
it. This
Yeah.
is
Amazing.
crazy.
Man, I'm so
So
pleased for
there's
you.
lots.
I'm excited for this new album. I'm sure so many people are. Finally, what's the most used emoji in your phone?
Probably the devil one. The
Leave it at
devil
that.
one, or the one that I didn't realize was prayer until only
I thought it was.
recently. I thought it was thank you.
I thought it was two hands high fiving, but there's always people have different
No,
thoughts
so
about
the high five is the palms
that one.
out.
Ah, that is prayer then.
The palms together is prayer, but I thought
Right,
it was thank you
right, okay, that as well.
because I guess I've been to some countries where people make that gesture when they're thanking
Yeah,
you. So I
yeah, yeah.
thought that I
Thank
thought
you.
it, it was thank you.
Yeah.
I never in a million years would have thought it was prayer. And now I realize I've been sending people a
Press
prayer
everyone.
emoji this whole time. I'm like, no,
No, we
damn
don't want that.
it.
Man,
No.
man, thanks so much for the chat. I know you got to go, you got other things to do, but thanks for the chat, my friend. Good luck with the album. Can't wait to
Thank you.
hear it in
Thank you.
full, and I can't wait to see you on the road. I hope you get over to Europe.
I hope so too, man. And thank you very much for taking the time. I really, really appreciate it.